Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank all of our panelists for all of the work that you've been doing under not the easiest of circumstances. And I have a lot of questions, so I need to get to them, but I need to say that we are going backwards on vaccines, and we are building, I hope our hearings do not contribute to the lack of public trust. I look at measles, which has been in my community because people are afraid to get it. And I say this as someone who got Guillain-Barré from the swine flu shot and was more afraid of anybody in the Congress of the COVID flu shot. But I did my research, I got it, I didn't die, and I got every other one. So we need to make sure that we understand vaccinations save lives in all kinds of things as we are doing these hearings. We can ask questions, but let's not contribute to the lack of trust in the community. But since the outbreak of the pandemic, we've encountered new challenges with emerging variants and other diseases. Just this past fall, we saw a triple dynamic with an increase in COVID-19 cases, an earlier than usual flu season, and RSV, which hit children and seniors especially hard. In the midst of this latest challenge, we heard from parents across the country struggling to find common over-the-counter pain relievers, such as Tylenol and Advil for their kids, as well as the antibiotic amoxicillin that's used to treat all kinds of infections. You know, when you're sick and you need it, you get scared when you can't find it. So, Dr. Califf, we know FDA can't wave a magic wand and immediately start producing more drugs when there are supply chain issues. But what can the agency do in a situation like this? What has the agency done to address these shortages? And because we're going to be short on time, what authorities or resources would it be helpful for the FDA to have to better anticipate and deal with these increase in demand and shortages?
Well, as you know, the industry is increasingly developing digitized supply chains. Each company has great detail about its own supply chain, but there is no central hub. And right now, our authorities across drugs, devices, biologics are somewhat different. None of them are as complete as they need to be. Particularly, we need for the companies to notify us when they see a shortage coming, whether it's because of a manufacturing problem, which currently exists for the most part, or because there's a great increase in demand that they're forecasting that will outstrip their ability to manufacture the product. Ultimately, I'd like us to envision 10 years from now a digitized supply chain that could undergo stress testing like we do for banks and the financial sector now.
So, for the record, could you tell us later in writing if there's something Congress needs to be doing to give you more support so we don't have this?
Yes, we'll give you a list. It gets into details because
I want
like
details, but we'll do it. I think all of us would like to see that. I'd like to now turn to another over-the-counter drug issue. When the pandemic was declared, we saw an increase in demand for another commonly used drug, hand sanitizers. Individuals and hospitals alike were having trouble finding it, and through an enforcement discretion policy, the FDA leaned on the ingenuity of small business owners like local distilleries to start producing product. Other producers, both in and outside of the country, also increased their supply. However, we saw some producers were importing hand sanitizers that have been contaminated with benzene and methanol, known carcinogens and microbiologists that can infect and cause illness. FDA put out statements alerting consumers and asking manufacturers to recall their products, but FDA could not order any manufacturers to take their products off the shelves. Although it may be shocking to many Americans, as it was to me, because unfortunately I bought one of those hand sanitizers, FDA does not have the authority to recall most drugs, even when they're contaminated with these harmful chemicals. Dr. Califf, can you explain how having the authority to actually order a recall would be helpful in times when a product is putting consumers at risk?
Of course, most companies want their products to be good, so they'll recall them on their own. But we run into companies that don't do it and put people at risk. If we can't order it to happen, all we're trying to do is then inform the public about something that can be lethal or cause serious illness. So we really need to have the authority to do it. We wouldn't use it unless we couldn't work it out with the company.
Some in the past have suggested that instead of ordering a recall when a sponsor fails to comply with a voluntary recall, FDA can simply revoke a product's approval or declare the product's misbranded. Are these options acceptable substitutes for recall authority? Why or why not?
Absolutely not. Remember that in a recall, you got to go to the shelf and take what's already been there and notify people in their homes. It's not enough to say don't sell anymore. A lot of it's going to be out there in commerce. We have a situation going on outside the U.S. right now, a diethylene glycol in Tylenol and ibuprofen, which is one reason we can't just import it. We've got to have control of the situation.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman, but we've got some good areas to work on together.